Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 32 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. Well, a busy weekend on many fronts, and of course, Crescent City Classic run this past weekend. Good weather, all went well there, which led to the Boston Marathon today. And of course, from the standpoint of area sports, let's first take a look at college baseball. LSU won 2 of 3 at Ole Miss, won the deciding game, the Sunday game that was played on Saturday, of course, for Easter weekend. And they did it with a combination pitching effort. Their 12th shutout of the year. That's a record for LSU baseball. This has been the game that they've had trouble with in the SEC, Lenny, so this was a huge win against a high RPI team in Ole Miss.
Right, on the road, no less. You expect to win the opener when you've got Aaron Nola on the mound. Ironically, if you will, a former LSU pitcher by way of Delgado, Christian Trent of St. Paul's, beat him on Friday, and then they come back and they kind of Johnny Holstaff the thing on Saturday as they've been doing. Now, has Cartwright maybe stepped up into that third starter role? He pitched all right in the middle of the week against Southern Miss, got the chance to start. They weren't sure how long he was going to go on Saturday. He gave him 4 innings. So do you stretch him out a little bit now? Maybe he moves into that number 3 starter position. Clearly, that is the hole that Paul Mainieri has to fill in this team. Got to get the hitting going a little bit better as well. Bregman hit in the 6th hole for the first time in his career this weekend. So it's, still a concern there. But as long as you can pitch, you can beat anybody. If the other team doesn't score, you're not going to lose.
Southeastern swept UNO, so the Lions in good shape as a result of this weekend sweep. 2 at UNO, 1 at home in Hammond. And Tulane, of course, lost their games in Charlotte, had the last game canceled. The other story clearly was Delgado. They swept a 3-game series from powerhouse LSU Eunice, and they've beaten them 4 out of 6 this year.
Yeah, they're playing very well, and get the chance the way the schedule falls this year to close everything out at home. They can take care of business next weekend against Baton Rouge Community College. They'll get a chance to open the postseason at home in May, and that would be a huge advantage. We'll have to travel for the so-called Super Regional, the district tournament, which is the final step before the Junior College World Series. You have to go to Missouri for that, but first things first, got to take care of business this week to set the stage for May.
Staying with baseball, the Zephyrs, they had a modest 2-game win streak as a result of 2 shutouts. Then they got shut out by Colorado Springs, and they continue the homestand tonight against the Sky Sox. So again, the pitching living up to form. Most recently, the hitting, well, it's still a challenge.
Yeah, they were getting no hit into the 7th inning on Sunday. Chance to get out and see them Monday night. Tuesday matinee, if you're looking for some afternoon baseball. They take the day off Wednesday, and then they're back home for 4 more on the weekend.
And, of course, our First NBC Bank Prep Showcase continuing 2 big games, both in District 9 5A, the Catholic League, coming up with Holy Cross and Brother Martin first up on Monday night live at SportsNola.com. And then on Wednesday, Rummel and Brother Martin live at SportsNola.com. Both games you can watch delayed on WHNO TV.
Right, following night at 8 o'clock. Tuesday and Thursday, if you missed the live stream here, you can watch the games on WHNO TV 20 as we put a bow on our 18-game high school package for the season.
All good. Football, another terrible performance by the Voodoo Friday night. Got beat 68-33 by a previously winless team. And if they want to be taken seriously in this market, Lenny, they're going to have to play better than they've played. Outscored 124-47 in their past 2 games, and clearly that's not going to get it done.
No, that's not going to get it done. One of the interesting things to me, it seems like, and maybe it's a league-wide trend, it seems like defenses are playing better in the league, whether it's they're getting stops or they're forcing turnovers. There was a game, was it 31-12 this weekend? So, I don't think that's such a bad thing. I mean, I think the video game type scores are not necessarily a good thing, and that is it really football? At least when you see defenses starting to play a little bit and become a bigger factor in the game, I think that's good for the game as a whole. As far as the Voodoo is concerned, like we talked about last week, got to get quarterback play, got to stop making turnovers.
Well, it's a joke. 6 more turnovers, 13 in 2 games, and now 23 for the year in just 5 games. That's astonishing. You got no chance when that occurs. Getting closer to the NFL draft, all quiet on the Western Front, as it were, but we're getting closer to that end. I went to see NFL draft day, I should say, this past weekend. So get yourself in the mood. Robert Meacham back in the fold with the Saints for another year, and we'll see how that works out. But we're getting much closer to that. But first things first, we'll focus on that next week. Let's focus on the Zurich Classic this week. And, of course, the Pro-Am, the first of the two, taking place today. Qualifier as well. And, Lenny, a lot of people will point to the field and say, boy, we don't even have some recent champions here. Bottom line is it's a tough sell on the calendar. It's a great city, great sponsor, great money. The course is much better than it's given credit for, but it's just a tough place on the calendar and a tough sell overall.
It really is. And to take nothing away from the job that the guys at the Four Kids Foundation are doing.
Fantastic job.
Absolutely. They put on a wonderful event, but it's just, you're in a tough sandwich spot right there. You're 2 weeks after the Masters. You've got the tournament in Charlotte coming up after that, and then you've got the Tournament Players Championship. So it's, and you can even throw in the week before where a lot of players like to go play at Hilton Head. So it's, it's just a tough spot to be squeezed in there, and you just got to get the best field you can. They've done a great job of getting some of the international stars, and they continue to get rising stars. So, who knew who Billy Horschel was at this time last year? But, you may see one of those guys pop out of the field again this week, maybe a first-time champion, maybe, someone on the rise, and you're going to go back and see, hey, I remember seeing that guy in New Orleans.
You're right. NBA playoffs finally, and 5 of the lower seeds winning in the first 8 playoff games to be played. Seeds somewhat overrated based upon the way teams played down the stretch, but that's still significant. And a 6th one, the number 1 seed in the West, San Antonio had to rally from a 10-point deficit late to win their game with Dallas. Some former Hornets figuring prominently in the mix. DJ Augustine playing well, of course, for Charlotte. So, hey, some rooting interests out there and some interesting results. And I don't know, Lenny. I think it's pretty interesting. I think in the West, clearly, somebody's got to beat San Antonio. The only someone that appears to be out there to me is possibly Oklahoma City with Westbrook back. And in the East, somebody's got to beat Miami. And it doesn't look like it's going to be Indiana based upon the way they're playing. So who could that second team possibly be? Could it be Brooklyn? Could it be Washington? Good questions.
Who knows? The 3 teams you mentioned, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Miami, well, they're the only home teams that won, the only high seeds that won. Everybody else got beat. So, this is, I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing for basketball. I don't think the one thing you want to see is a bunch of blowouts in the first round. You've got some competitive series potentially out there. But yeah, who knows at this point? We've seen one game. Let's see. Good teams will come out and make these adjustments back to game 2. Now, if some home team loses the first 2 at home, I think it's time to say goodnight, Irene. But, let's see how game 2s go beginning Monday night.
I've never met Irene.
Nor have I.
I'm not sure I want to, but it's okay. I'm sure she's nice.
Yeah, I'm sure she is.
All right. Well, you know what? Enough of that. Let's disperse with this and move on. That's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 32 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor and appreciated sponsor, of course, of SportsNoah.com. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. Lenny, thanks. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All right. You as well. God bless you one and all. See you later in the week.